Hello everybody and welcome back to my workshop. Now if you're one of my inexplicably loyal subscribers, or at least you've been viewing the channel a little bit, you've probably seen the short little video clip of the remains of my Gilera CX after I was involved in a fairly serious crash on the 26th of June, and the important news is that I'm basically okay. Given the nature of the accident, I was extremely fortunate. Basically what happened was there's a road onto which you can only turn left, and if you want to go right you've got to travel a relatively short distance down to a roundabout, loop around and go back the other way. Now when the traffic is really heavy, pretty much stationary, you do get people performing an illegal U-turn at the end of the traffic island that forms part of that protected junction. But you kind of expect them to perhaps do that. On the day that I was riding, the traffic was actually flowing pretty well, and so I wasn't expecting the manoeuvre, and even the manner in which it was performed was clearly the guy seeing a gap on the other side of the road, actually swinging the van to the left, according to what a witness was saying whilst I was lying on my back staring at the sky. Which means he would have moved out of my eye line, or indeed was never in it, then swung to the right, and I hit the van as he started the U-turn. So I impacted the van with my left shoulder and the bike, and from what I can work out from where I ended up, actually carried me round the U-turn, or at least for a good part of it, and I ended up landing absolutely flat on my back on the other side of the road. I kind of felt, once I'd done that quick, how have I got all four limbs attached? Can I breathe okay? Have I been knocked out? Kind of quick inventory. That I was kind of basically okay. My back was complete agony, but it was across the full width of my back. There was no central pain in my back or my neck. Loads of people stopped. I had a first aider had stopped. Some of the people who'd stopped seemed to think the ambulance was taking a long time getting there, but I actually didn't think it was that long myself. Especially given the traffic that I just managed to stop. Ambulance crew in attendance, fire engine in attendance, because of the potential for a fire. I was with it enough to tell people to stand my bike up because I could see fuel pouring out of it because I'd only recently filled the tank. 2 police cars in attendance. And I went off to hospital on a spinal board. But as I say, I was really lucky. I got checked out, an X-ray, and I actually walked out of hospital about 3.5 hours after the incident. I even walked home, which is a very short distance for me. Took quite a long time, and I only did it because I really couldn't face the pain of climbing into a car and then back out again. It was 3 or 4 days, possibly more, before I could even get out of bed in less than about 5 minutes. But I've continued to improve. I went back to work after about a month, just basically on light duties, as it were, and there's other reasons why I haven't been doing much work, which we'll come to in a minute. But I'm basically okay. My back still hurts, it's still pretty stiff. I can no longer turn around to the extent I could to when reversing, and I've never before had to rely on mirrors for reversing, so my reversing's not very good at the moment. Had to do a long car journey recently, and that was getting pretty uncomfortable towards the end. But like I say, I am slowly getting better. I don't think there's going to be any significant permanent damage. I've got a lump in my chest where the end of the collarbone seems to have got distorted, but that's about it. My shoulder still hurts a bit. Really can't do much out in the workshop. But mentioning the job, mentioning the workshop, I'm going to have more time to spend out here, because back towards the end of May I was called in for a meeting with my head of department and my line manager to be basically told that I was being made redundant, along with a whole load of other people, mostly in sort of support areas. It wasn't at that time a formal notice of redundancy, it was a notification of post at risk. And then there is a review procedure, and you can appeal it. But it was clear that this was basically, you're going to be made redundant. But I had the option of applying for voluntary redundancy, which would speed up the procedures and get me a better deal financially, and that is what I have done. My last official day at Rothamsted will be the 31st of September, but in fact, due to my outstanding leave, I probably won't be working any of September, unless I take enough leave in the meantime that I end up taking a few days. So this brings to a close an era. Working at Rothamsted Research was my first full-time job, and I've already clocked up just over 32 years, and I've enjoyed nearly all of it. Recent times have not been so good. Haven't really liked the direction things were going in, but I'm not going to linger on that. By sticking it out those few extra years, it's brought me much closer to being in a financial position that not working full-time is not going to be a disaster. I'm basically going to be okay, but it means that I've got to find another source of income. Now obviously I have my workshop, and I already had people bringing me a certain amount of marine work, and I will be able to take on more of that, though as you know the workshop is a constant work in progress and needs a lot of rearranging, and I want to do a lot of that. I want to dedicate some time to getting it sorted out. So the channel's not going away, and hopefully there will be more output. If you'd like to see something in particular, if you'd like the channel to go in a certain way, now I've got more time, any suggestions, feel free to make them, and I'll feel free to turn them down if I don't like them. No hard feelings on either side. I have had an offer of work, and it's something I'm considering. The major downside is with the traffic absolutely perfect, it's an hour and a quarter each way, and with the traffic bad, it could easily be 2.5, 3 hours each way, which I really don't want to get involved in. But on the other hand, it would be doing stuff I would be keen on doing. It would be as a contractor on a per project basis, So it might be that I can put up with the commute for the length of a project, and then the next project comes along and I'm saying, sorry, I'm taking a break from this one, let me know when the next one starts. But you know, the discussions haven't really gone very far on that, but you know, I've already had an offer of work which I'm considering. So I guess that's about it for the moment. My Marini 175 GT, I should be able to start putting back together again pretty shortly, when I feel up to getting out to the workshop and actually spending any significant time out here. In the meantime, I will be able to hopefully shoot some video of the remains of the Marini race bike belonging to my friend Phil. The bike itself is fine, but we've had another engine problem, which is fairly major and is certainly ending the season for the bike. It's quite an interesting failure and result, so I will shoot some footage of that. Phil dropped off the engine to me and stuck around long enough to strip down the Gilera CX for me, because although I got free return of salvage on my insurance policy, the insurance company have categorised it as a Cat B, which means that the bike should not be put back on the road. It can only be stripped for spares, and they want the frame returned before they'll pay out on the claim. And in a way, yes, it's not worth repairing. All the bits I would need in order to do the repair would basically be obtained by buying another one. And they're extremely thin on the ground. They don't come up for sale very often. In theory, I could make moulds of bodywork from my other CX. Yes, I had a spare one. I bought it about a year after the first one, which I bought about 10 years ago. In fact, it was nearly almost exactly 10 years. The front suspension unit, I think I can actually buy a new one for quite a reasonable price. Shout out for Bob Wright Gilera, who's very good to deal with and likes selling stuff, not staring at it on a shelf for 10 years, so his prices are pretty reasonable, if not just plain old good. But realistically, if I wanted to put a second CX back on the road, it will be waiting until a complete bike turns up to strip for spares, or put back on the road in its entirety. Then the problem being is that it would almost certainly be an imported machine, not registered in the UK, and I would have to jump through all the hoops in order to get it UK registered, whereas having a registered frame and just taking the parts off the other bike to repair it would save me all that registration rigmarole. So given that the frame essentially appears to be undamaged, there is one slight dent in the frame, which I don't think is as a result of the accident and is not, I believe, structurally significant. I might just argue it with the insurance company, send them a picture and saying, do you really have to declare this as a category B, or can it be a category C? Which just means I have to get it inspected before it goes back on the road. So we'll see what the outcome of that is. And apart from that, thank you all for watching, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon.